Today I'm going to share how I made my custom Slaanesh bases for my Emperor's Children army, and it's coming right up.
Saved by Slaanesh.
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another Saved by Slaanesh video, and in this one I'm making some custom Slaanesh themed bases for my 20 Daemonettes and 5 Seekers. I'm going to use the same technique that I did for my 36 Noise Marines, when you could take 36 Noise Marines, only 18 now of course, but enough about that. Today we're going to make these bases for my Daemonettes. Now, first of all, I want to chat about the base sizes, because Daemonettes come with 25mm bases. However, it is quite a small base, and I've got a lot of basing material to go onto my bases. Not only that, but the chances are, if Games Workshop do a brand new Daemonette kit, the bases are probably going to increase in size. So I have decided I'm going to put my Daemonettes on 28mm bases. It's only a little bit bigger, but it gives me a little bit more room for my themed bases. So I'm going to start my bases by putting some slate on them. Now, this slate I got from a garden centre, a big bag of it. I got a hammer and I smashed it into smaller pieces, and I've got some smaller stones as well, so I can mix and match between the sizes. Now, rather than just gluing a load of slate on bases and just randomly sort of selecting a Daemonette to put it onto one of the slates, I actually made an individual base for each individual model. I've got different poses on all of the different models within the 20 because I mixed and matched all of the pieces. So I wanted to make sure that the pose matched the base. Now, in the interest of variety, each unit of 10 had 5 bases with just one bigger piece of slate on, and 5 bases with 2 pieces on it. But I also needed to make sure I had enough room to put some tentacles, because I'm going to have tentacles on these bases. I'm going to have 1 unit of 10 with 1 tentacle, and 1 unit of 10 with 2 tentacles. That way I can differentiate the 2 units. So I carefully selected the pieces of slate which matched the model, making sure the model wasn't tilted too much to one side, making sure it just looked really cool. Of course, I needed to keep tabs of which model was with which base, so I did that just by laying them out on my desk. Okay, so next I mixed up some green stuff. Now, if you're not sure what green stuff is, it's an epoxy. It comes in 2 halves that you mix together. Once you mix it together, you've got time to work with it, and then after a few hours it goes hard and dries. It's a great product, really useful to have in your toolbox. I've got more videos on green stuff which I will link up for you at the end of this one, but for now we mixed up the green stuff and then we started to apply it to the base. I used a tool and pushed it around the rock. Then I got some water, which helps when you're using green stuff because it stops it from sticking to your fingers, and I got my thumb and I spread out the green stuff, just taking it to the edges of the base and just removing the excess. I want the green stuff to be not too thick but not too thin, because I'm going to do some imprints onto the green stuff, because around my slates is supposed to be Slaanesh Gloop. That's right, it's not actually supposed to be water. It's supposed to be Gloop, where all of these tentacles come from. So I need to do a pattern in the green stuff. First though, we need to get the green stuff on the base and also remove the fingerprints. And I did that with a colour shaper tool. This is basically a silicone brush. It's like a rubber paint brush, and they come in different shapes and sizes. I've got quite a few different ones. I'm using this flat one first, with some water again. I'm just rubbing it over the green stuff, and this helps remove all of the fingerprints and flatten the green stuff out. Once I had that done, then I used one of the other shaped tools and I made some indentations, effectively some wiggly indentations to represent movement of this gloop. I made the squiggly lines quite random but all parallel to each other to give a sense of movement of this gloop. I also made sure if I had a piece of slate with a flat edge that the lines went sort of parallel with the edge. Again, just to bring the whole base together. Now don't worry too much about the green stuff being on the rims of the base. We're going to sort that out later. Okay, so now on to the fun stuff, making tentacles. And I'm using a Green Stuff World tentacle maker. Actually, I think they called it a roll maker. I bought this a long time ago when I first started the army, and it's fantastic. So first of all, you mix up some green stuff and then you roll it out using some water. Once you've got it to the desired thickness, you just cut it into little lengths and then re-roll it so that it goes almost into a point. Not too pointy, but pointed at one end. And then we're going to use the tentacle maker. Now the roll maker has 3 different plates to give you different sized ridges. You have a fine, a medium and a large one. Not only that, but you can actually rotate them round to make even more different shapes. So you can make up to 6 shapes with this roll maker, which is really cool. It's very easy to use. You just use the little side section to put one of the plates in, use a little bit of water and put your tentacle in to roll it. However, a key thing here, don't do this straight away. Let your little tubes of green stuff dry for about 20 minutes before you use the roller. It makes life much easier. The green stuff doesn't stick to the tentacle maker because it's a bit harder. As you roll the plate over the top backwards and forwards, I sort of push it down on one side on the thinner section so they get more of a point on the tentacle. Now of course, once you've got the indentations on the tentacle, we need to make it look like a tentacle. So we just twist it around a little bit to make it tentacle-ish. And then I put it on some baking paper just so that it could dry without sticking to anything. I made some bigger, thicker tentacles and some smaller, thinner tentacles. A variety is always good. Right, whilst the tentacles were drying, I then went to the bases. The green stuff is now totally dried on the bases. And I got my knife and cleaned up the rims of the base. I literally just scraped off the green stuff off of the side of the base. I used this downward motion with the knife to scrape it off and leave it right on the edge of the base and just cleans the rim up from any green stuff that was on it. Okay, so now it's the fun bit. We're going to glue the tentacles onto the bases. What I did is I worked out where I wanted the tentacle to be and I cut a nice straight edge with my knife for it to glue onto the base. Now of course you can cut at any angle that you want to change the shape of the tentacle. I had some tentacles going up and back down into the green stuff and some were just poking out as if they were trying to grab onto something. However, I did something a little bit different with my Daemonettes. On my Noise Marines, all of the tentacles were coming out of the gloop and attempting to grab the feet, the legs of the Noise Marines, as if they were trying to turn them to Slaanesh. However, the Daemonettes, they're already turned, they're already Slaanesh. So I thought it would be pretty cool if the tentacles on the Daemonette bases were opening up as if they were making a pathway for the Daemonettes to actually go through rather than trying to grab hold of them. Of course, I used super glue to glue the tentacles on, and as I said, I had 10 with 1 tentacle on their base and 10 with 2. I'm really happy how they came out. I cannot wait to paint these Daemonettes and the Seekers that I also did at the same time. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've been wanting to paint these since I started the army back in 2017. Of course, I'll be making painting tutorials when I paint these lovely, lovely ladies. In the meantime, here are a couple of videos all about green stuff, which I'm sure you will enjoy watching next.